have time for the Q&A session.
That was amazing, Taylor. I literally just love this story. Yeah, I think we have some questions coming in. So yeah, maybe the first one is, Michelle is asking if only some ants have the job of being a scout, and if so, how is this scout chosen?
That's a really good question. I think you're getting at the idea of division of labor, where some ants do one task and other ants do a different task. And that is something that the researchers were interested in. I actually am not 100% sure that I have the answer for it. I encourage you to look over the paper yourself, but I'd say that there's a lot of really interesting literature on the different jobs that ants do, and how jobs are chosen is a really interesting question that we have some answers to. So for example, we know that as ants age, they tend to do different tasks. So younger ants tend to be more inside the nest and doing nursing tasks, we think, whereas older ants tend to do more dangerous tasks like foraging and things like taking care of the garbage or removing the dead. So I would expect that you might see that the scouts are a little bit older because it's probably a pretty dangerous task. But I'm not going to cite data without being 100% confident on that.
And I guess another question is, what would happen if you did these colony size manipulations to, I guess they said a species evolutionarily closer to the ancestral ant, so maybe a more basal species in the ant tree? And do you think that that could influence mass rates?
I wonder. So one point is that we're only concerned with one of the subfamilies of ants today, the Doralines, but there's actually several others. And outside of this group, there's all kinds of different raiding strategies that are much more diverse than just group raids and mass raids. So I think the actual basal ants, which are Ponerines, probably don't do either of these things, but maybe use an entirely different type of raiding strategy. So I don't know what they would do. Now, to take the question as, if you were to take one of the basal Doralines and try to get them to increase their colony size and try to get them to do mass raids, it's certainly a good, interesting question. I don't know. Is it something that only clonal raider ants are predisposed to be able to do? I'm not sure, because as far as I know, there really isn't a lot of lab work on any other Doralines, at least this highly detailed behavioral analysis in the lab. So I hope someone will eventually start doing more detailed comparative work and see if that is possible.
And we have some questions related to if they have any idea what the recruitment pheromone is that the scout is releasing.
We have no idea. It's only hypothesized to be a pheromone right now, but someone is going to have to eventually find a way to isolate that chemical and then do an experiment to see if you can trigger recruitment using it, but that has not been done yet.
And another question would be if there's any lazy ants during these raids, so ants that don't get recruited and don't want to participate.
Yeah, not every ant participates in the raid. I think you also see that as the group size increases, the proportion of ants that are joining the raid goes down. So yeah, some of the ants are probably a bit lazy. And of course, we don't know for sure if they didn't join the raid because they didn't get the signal. Maybe maybe there just wasn't enough signal in the air versus them deciding not to respond to it. But it'd be interesting to look at that. Certainly we're interested in behavioral differences between ants. Do they have different sensitivities? And that's how you get different task performance. Might be the case.
And I guess one last question, which is probably a perfect question for you, given your PhD thesis topic, would be like, how do ants smell? And how do they detect smells?
So the sense of smell is really important for ants. They have all sorts of chemoreceptors on their antennae in particular, and a really complicated olfactory processing brain center, and that is a thing that I study. So they smell by detecting chemicals in their antennae, and their brain lets them respond to those signals. And yeah, I guess like how exactly the neural processing works is a topic that I'm trying to touch upon in my PhD, and then other people are hopefully going to answer even better.
And another question would be, if in the wild, the clonal radar ants, do they live underground in kind of more traditional ant nests, or do they have more nomadic lifestyles like the army ant bivouacs?
So not a whole lot is known about Oasorrhea in the wild because they haven't really been observed that many times, and they are subterranean. So it's a little hard to watch them do behaviors in the wild. My understanding, and I'm not really an actual army ant expert, but my understanding is that even the subterranean army ants do follow a nomadic lifestyle. There are subterranean army ants, and they may be following little tunnels under the rocks, something like that. But we would love for people to go out and really do some good field work on Oasorrhea at some point.